Okay, are we ready? Let us do our prayer before study. Christ, my Lord, the giver of light and wisdom, who opened the eyes of the blind man and transformed the fishermen into wise heralds and teachers of the gospel through the coming of the Holy Spirit, shine also in my mind the light of the grace of the Holy Spirit. Grant me discernment, understanding, and wisdom in learning. Enable me to complete my assignments and to abound in every good work, for to you I give honor and glory. Amen. Most blessed Lord, send the grace of your Holy Spirit on me to strengthen me, that I may learn well the subject I am about to study, and by it become a better person, for your glory, the comfort of my family, and the benefit of your church and our nation. Amen. All right. Today we are looking at the Emperor Augustus. And this is the first time we can legit call him an emperor. At this point, he's, well, yeah, emperor. As imperator. Imperator. Okay, here we go on page 55. So, but before we do that, I have some papers to give back. What did you say, Christian?
That was me.
Oh.
I said ask you to receive.
Okay, so again, just to remind you, if I asked a question, like you wrote a paragraph and I said, well, what, blah, 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 what happened here? That's me saying, hey, this is something else you could have included in that paragraph. Right? Just for future reference. We don't have very many more papers to write, because I can't really ask you to write a paper about a book you haven't finished yet, you see. But we are going to do some writing assignments, including this week, on Eagle of the Night, okay? But not maybe one of these papers. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to tell you totally, Juliana, I still have to stop and think. I'm embarrassed that I have to.
Here's my paper.
Here, just a second. Could you guys hold on to the, actually, here, we'll do it this way. I will take the papers first, so you don't get them mixed up. And then if I'm not holding the other papers, I won't get mixed up. Maybe.
Hello.
Thank you. Pass this way. Pass this way.
I hate her paper.
You guys know the old joke, the walk this way joke?
Walk this way. It's Aerosmith, right?
What?
It's a song, right?
Oh, yeah, but no, it's a joke, actually, long before. You know, like, the joke is you have some old guy, and he answers to the butler, Preston is, like, walk this way. And he means come this direction, but then he goes, like, he walks real funny, and then everybody behind him walks this way.
Walk this way.
I thought you would enjoy that. Okay. All right, now I have papers for you. Also, I went to do this with the Latin, and I forgot, if you remind me at the end. I have a who, which joke, because okay, but ask me later. Okay, Christian, why did I not hand this to Clara while I was over here? I don't know. And, boom, Bren, Luke, Olivia. If I said ask me about, Olivia gets a double dose. And Evelyn. All right.
It gets so confusing because you know.
Did I write on anybody's paper, ask me about this? Okay, awesome. You can read my edits at your leisure. Remember, just think of it, I'm not correcting you, I'm editing you. You know, professional authors have editors. It's not bad to have an editor. It doesn't mean you're failing. Like people who get books published have editors that fix their mistakes. So. Yes. Oh. Then you should ask. What does this mean? I don't know. Oh. Okay, so you said that it shows a boy becoming a man and becoming good and just. I agree. I totally agree with this. Then I said, could you show me an example in the book? Like, you could have said, for example, when he chooses to do blah, 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 it shows his development. And then I said, why is that a good thing? You said, this story is inspiring because it shows someone becoming good and just. Maybe it's obvious, but you might say, and this is a good thing because we also should become good and just. And it gives us a good example to follow. See what I mean? That was in your head. But sometimes what's in our head when we write, we assume that our reader will know because they're psychic or something, but they're not. So that's all I meant, Bren. That's another example of the, oh, you could have said this too. Okay. All right, let's talk about Augustus. I really, really like the Emperor Augustus. I like, well, some of the guys you're going to read about next week were total rotters. And I don't like them. But I like this time period very much. I brought some pictures of things because you read a lot about. I really need, if we're talking about, like if you have a question or something, it's good, but we need to not just kind of make noises in the middle of classes. This is a homeschool thing. Like by the time you're in junior high in public school, like you've been sent out in the hall too many times for making noise and gotten in trouble or said to the principal, you don't make any noises, but we have to practice that. Okay, but do you have a question, Bryn?
Yeah, I've compared bricks and marble for my businesses.
Oh.
The present paper that I just gave you.
Oh,
Does that work?
that works. Because, well, okay, yes, but we'll visit that in a minute because I asked you a question about this. So, but yes, awesome. No, that's fine. So, Christian already mentioned this, but let's backtrack. Let us remember the horrors of last week. Julius Caesar was dictator for life. Great. Did it seem like Julius Caesar was a nice enough ruler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Julius Caesar.
He wasn't doing
He's a
anything.
goat.
Yeah, he wasn't doing anything bad. Christian. He wasn't doing anything bad. As far as we could tell, he wasn't persecuting anyone. He was no Sulla. There were no lists of these are the people who need to die. But he was dictator for life, which sounds a lot like king. And there's if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. They say sometimes. They do say this. And so if it looks like a king and sounds like a king, it's probably a king. And so, of course, Brutus and Cassius and some other people suspected this was what was going on. So they murdered him. Now, I want you to just stop and think a minute about everything we've read about for the last few weeks, starting with Marius. Marius, who's consul over and over and over again, even though it was illegal. He just took command of the army because basically the people said, hey, we like him because he's good. And then he got into a horrible battle with Sulla. And then Sulla swoops in and starts wiping people out. Then we have Pompey fighting against Julius Caesar. And in the meantime, what is the Senate doing? It's kind of just sitting here like this.
Who's going to get in charge?
Who should I butter up? Who should I flatter? Because who's going to be the next guy who might have me killed? So, and this has been going on, guys, for about 75 years.
Oh.
A whole lifetime of a human being, this has been going on. Do you think, after Julius Caesar is murdered, and then Antony swoops in, and do you think they're ever going to be able to go back to the way it was back in the days of, Horatius and all those great Romans? Do you think the Senate's going to step up and say, we are now taking charge again, and by golly, we're electing consuls, and they're only going to be consul once? And does it sound like they're going to be able to turn back the clock? And it really doesn't. What has changed? Rome owns much of the world. And they've got to figure out how to manage much of the world. And that old republic government, it wasn't cutting it. So here's the problem. Octavius, 19-year-old Octavius, breezes into town. And he, gets together with Mark Antony, but we talked last week about how that fell apart when Antony ran off away from Octavia's sister, his wife, and moved in with Cleopatra. And finally, they fought a great battle off the coast of Greece at Actium, and Octavius was victorious, and Antony and Cleopatra ended up dead. Now there's no other power, there's just Octavius. And he renames himself, or the Senate renames him Augustus, because he's august, he's noble and proud in a good way, and capable and a great leader. But he has a problem. Great Uncle Julius got stabbed to death because Great Uncle Julius had too much power. Octavius needs to have the same amount of power, but he would like to not get stabbed to death. And who can blame him? So, what's he going to do? He's got to handle it delicately, right? I need to take control, but I need to not look like I'm taking control because I'm going to get killed. But everything's going to unravel if nobody steps in and takes power because the Senate's not going to do it. This is his problem. So, he takes various titles. Here's what Augustus does. Here's Augustus in a nutshell. I'm going to take as many powers as I can, but I'm going to make sure they're all legal powers voted to me by the Senate. But I'm going to collect them all. So, for example, he has himself elected tribune. Tribunes are the guys who look out for the little guy, the plebeians, right? They're the guys who stand up for the plebeians if they think the patricians and the Senate are doing something wrong. I'm going to be a tribune. I'm going to be a consul. I'm going to be a proconsul and governor of a province. I'm going to be this. But I'm not special. I'm not special. In fact, he did not call himself anything but this, princeps. Literally, it means the first citizen. I'm just one of you, only better, right? I'm just one of you, except that circumstances have put me in charge. But really, I'm not anything. I'm just the first citizen. But I'm just a Roman citizen, just like you guys. But the first question I asked you was another title he took, Imperator. What, and by the way, what word do you suspect we get from Imperator? Emperor. Right. That's why we call them emperors. It's sort of a slurred version of Imperator, emperor. What was an Imperator? What did it originally mean? When did you get to be Imperator? Yeah, Evelyn, go for it.
It's a military title that you get put on the
Yes. When you win in battle and you are the leader of the army, you are hailed as Imperator. It's an army commander. If you want to be in charge of a government, why might it be nice to have control over an army?
So then if someone tries to attack you, the army's like,
Indeed.
take the guy out.
Indeed. You want to have the army, you don't want the other guy to have the army. This is common sense, right? So they start calling Augustus Imperator. He conquered Antony, but you see, he gets to be Imperator always, which implies he has command of the army. Who's in command of the army in America? The president of the United States is commander-in-chief. Yes, currently Trump. But anybody who is president is the commander-in-chief of the army. He's our imperator. Augustus had command of the army even if he wasn't using it. Does that make sense to you guys? Mm-hmm. And it's good to have command of the army because you want to have power at your back if necessary. Okay, I already talked about the next one several times. What's his new name? Augustus. And what does it mean? Yes, like majestic, noble, honored. Okay. He also made himself high priest.
High priest?
I know. And this is kind of an interesting word history. A priest was called a pontifex. That is the Latin word for priest. And there was a Pontifex Maximus. Maximus means the highest one, right? He's the high priest. He's in charge of all the, looking for omens and saying, oh, this is a bad omen, and so we need to have this religious festival to get rid of the bad omen or whatnot. And again, do you remember, did I ask you guys? I feel like I did. I asked you in one of your reading question things, did Roman religion seem to you like a emotional, spiritual heart thing, or did it seem more like a duty, like a civic duty? It was a civic duty, right? So when we say somebody is a priest, we mean it has religious ramifications. When we say the Roman priest, it's just, well, I look for the omens and I take care of business, right? We do our duty to the gods. So so Christians, huh? It kind of explains it a little bit. So Julius Caesar had been Pontifex Maximus for a while. It was an elected office. But Augustus took over as Pontifex Maximus. So he has control of the army. He's a tribune, so he speaks for the people. He has the people on his side. He's the leader of the Senate. He's the first man in the Senate, the princeps. He has imperium. He has power in the provinces. He has everything. But he did it very gently, and he made sure he did everything through legal channels. And he ruled for a really long time. Nobody stabbed him in the back. It's awesome for him.
That's great.
By the way, so the pontiff, sometimes the pope, the pontiff, it comes from pontifex. It comes from the Latin word for priest. And anyway, it's the same word that came into Christian usage. Okay. What is the next? Oh, yeah, let's talk about this for a while. I asked you, was Augustus a good ruler? List 3 things he did to back up your answer. And tell me something he did. Give me one of them.
He made the police force more effective.
Thank you, Anne. No, that's fine. Made the police force more respected. This is true, Christian. Anne, do you want to give me yours?
Willingly gave him power.
Say again.
The Senate
The Senate
willingly gave
willingly gave him power, which means he's probably a good guy. I mean, he swayed them over. Anybody else have another one?
Didn't he make the boundaries of Rome more secure?
Secured the boundaries of Rome. We'll talk about that in a minute. Give me another one, Christian.
Lots of good buildings.
Lots of good buildings. We're going to talk about that today, too. You got another one, Ann?
liked him.
People liked him. What you got, Bryn?
Fire brigade.
Fire brigade. I like that.
Is it like a
We-
bucket brigade? Or
Well,
did
they
actually-
had carts with water and things, but yeah, I mean, they didn't have power hoses, obviously. But we kind of take for granted the fact that we live in a system where if your house catches on fire, you call a number and then they will come put out the fire for you. Especially if they lived in a very crowded city where a lot of things were made of wood, and they burned candles and lamps for light. It's a bad combination. So yeah. What did I put down? I put down he reformed provincial governments. In other words, do you remember a few chapters ago we talked about the fact that the governor would go out to the province. He's like, hey, dudes, give me all your money. Give me all your money. I'm going to tax you really, really heavily because nobody's going to check up on me ever. And Augustus, no. That only alienates the people in the provinces. Then they hate Rome, and for the temple. We need to not treat people that way. Reform that, systematized taxes, no new conquests, secure the frontier. And I put this one down too. Promoted simple living and tradition. Here's a problem. And see if this sounds familiar in modern times. Morals were terrible. People lived terrible lives, and divorce was rampant. People were just ditching their spouses and running off with somebody else. Case in point, Antony and Cleopatra. And Augustus said, this is intolerable. We cannot have a society that acts like this and stay strong. So he passed a bunch of family-related laws. He made divorce more difficult. He gave rewards, kind of perks, to people who got married and had children to encourage families. There was a special perk for like the father of 3 children. Like if you had at least 3 children, you got special rewards and tax cuts and stuff like that.
So he's trying to get more Roman citizens?
Maybe, but he also knows that when people get married and settle down, they tend to be more conservative, more like they don't want to be wild and crazy and start rebellions and stuff because they've got a family to take care of. They don't want to start wars, and you see what I mean? Because they've got people they care about.
Where's Augustus now?
What?
Where's Augustus now?
What do you mean?
Where's
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, but like
Where's he buried?
we kind of need him right now.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, we need an Augustus is what you're saying. I'm sorry, I didn't, but yes, this is a good comment.
I
Amelia.
can't tell if I like made this up or if it's wrong, but wasn't it that married women couldn't cheat on their husbands, but married men could with single women?
Yeah, okay, this is the way it's been through most of history, but not among Christians. That women were held to a different standard than men. This is not what Jesus intended, obviously, but he knew it was going on, and here's how I know he knew. If you ever, this is kind of an unsavory thing, but I feel like you guys are old enough. If it's in the Bible, we can talk about it. Do you know what I mean, even if it's a little unsavory? The woman caught in adultery, and she's dragged before Jesus, right? And remember whoever's without sin, where was the guy? They didn't drag him in, right? Now, this isn't me being like I'm some crazy feminist, it's like women's rights and all that, but it's the way it was. And I'm pretty sure Jesus would have noticed, because they said we caught her in the act. Well, then she must not have been alone. Where's the guy? Oh, you've let him go, and you grabbed the woman. Now, and this is unsavory too, but before you get all, life is so unfair to women. Women are the ones who get pregnant. And so you kind of want to know that when your wife has a baby that you're the dad. People want to know this. So they kept tabs on women a little more than they kept tabs on men. But it is very good observation, Amelia. And I think it is definitely an observation. Jesus was consistently really, really kind to women. Think about all of his interactions with women. Because society was not very kind to women sometimes. But it's true. It's true. There was a different... But actually, I'm going to tell you something. Since we're going down an unsavory path, we might as well go all the way. But first, I want to hear what Bryn has to say.
Saint Perpetua, she wanted to actually be free because she had to always listen to her husband.
Yes.
And she didn't really care for that. Like she said,
Which...
the Christian life is a lot better for me than modern living.
The unsavory extra detail is, poor Augustus, though, who was really, really concerned about morals, had a daughter named Julia. And she was what we would refer to today as quite a tramp. Every man in Rome knew about Julia. I mean, she had a lot of boyfriends. We'll just put it that way. Whether she was married or not, she had just, yeah. And Augustus found out about it finally, and he had her banished permanently. He never saw her again. He put her on a little island somewhere. Oh yeah, because this is humiliating. Like, I'm trying to straighten up Rome, and my own daughter is running around. Like, no. So he punished the men as well that he found out about, but he also punished his own daughter with banishment for not being moral. So that's enough of the unsavory details. Let's go back to a couple of things. Somebody said new buildings.
Yeah.
Was it you, Christian? Let's talk about the next question, which also goes back to what Bryn said. What did Augustus mean when he said that he found Rome a city of brick And he left it a city of marble. Julia.
Me?
Oh,
I was just stretching.
I'm sorry. You have to be careful when you stretch in Mrs. Ferguson's class. What does that mean? I found Rome a city of brick, but I left it a city of marble. What do you think it means, Brian?
He made it a lot more beautiful.
He made it a lot more beautiful. Is brick fancy and expensive?
No.
No, you can make it out of mud.
Yeah, no. Is marble fancy and expensive?
Yes.
Oh, holy cow. Now, does that mean that everything he made was totally out of marble? No, it doesn't. But it's a metaphor, right? He's saying Rome was no great shakes. Like, just kind of buildings built here, there, everywhere. But I beautified Rome. I poured public money into things that people could really enjoy. And this is a good time to show you some pictures. We're actually going to talk about some of his other deeds. First of all, since we're talking about him in general, this is not very good. I'm so sorry the top of his head is cut off. I need to get another edited picture of this. This is Octavius. This is Augustus. This is the most famous statue of Augustus.
Who's on the ground?
It's Cupid, and I will tell you that. I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. It's called the Prima Porta Augustus because it was in Augustus's wife's Livia's villa at Prima Porta. So it's where they found it. It's where it was. So it's the Prima Porta Augustus. And he's wearing armor, very fancy armor, as you can see. Yes. Okay, I can't hear Bryn.
His wife had her own villa.
Yeah,
Is this her
they were.
villa that she lived in?
No, they were quite wealthy. It's like summer home.
So
like.
he's busy with the government.
Yes, she can go out and they had plenty of cash for more than one villa. Also, people tended to leave Rome in the summer because it got very hot and stinky and people got sick. So if you had a country house, you got out of Rome in the summer when it was unhealthy and smelled really bad.
Why is it unhealthy?
Because people dumped their poo in the streets and in the river, and all their rotting food.
Oh, wow.
Although Rome was better than many places because it did have underground sewers, but it went into the river, and it just and Julia also people didn't take a lot of baths. Well, actually, the Romans did take a lot of baths. This was earlier on. By the time of Augustus, they took a lot of baths. By the 300 years before, maybe not so much. But yeah, it's just there was what there was none of was deodorant.
Oh, no.
There were baths, but no deodorant. Okay, moving on. So somebody asked, what is this little guy? I have a couple of things to say about this little guy, this little Cupid. First of all, Julius Caesar and the Julian family claim to be descended from Aeneas. And who is Aeneas's mom? Aphrodite or Venus. So Cupid is like their half-brother because Cupid is also a child of Venus. So they would often have Venus or Cupid or something like that with the Julian family to remind everybody, hey, we're descended from the goddess. There's another reason for Cupid to be down there. This is a copy in stone of a bronze original. When you make things out of bronze, you can make them hollow. You can cast the bronze in a mold. When you make things out of stone, it's very hard to make them hollow. You can imagine. So we don't, which means stone is very heavy. Stone statues are heavy, and bronze statues are a little lighter. And when you have a statue, and look how he's got 1 foot, like he's got, this foot's like this, and so he's not just like this on the 2 feet. He's got the little, like it's an action shot, And so that means it's mostly balanced on this toe and this foot, and it's solid stone. And it might not be very secure. So often they put a little prop, and they made it decorative. You'll see a lot of Roman statues if you look through an art book, and they have a little cherub. They have some dude, some little goddess dude hanging out by their leg, or they'll have a tree stump there. It's a prop. It's a prop because probably it's a copy of a bronze original, but they needed to put something else in it to hold it in place. Does that make sense? So Cupid is there, A, because Julians descended from Venus. Also because they needed a prop for the stone. Okay, so this is our guy, but that is actually not what I was talking about. I don't know how well you'll be able to see these pictures, but I will bring it. This is an awesome book. It's about Athens and Rome. And this first thing I'm going to show you, this is an artist's rendition and what the forum looks like today. Okay, but this is kind of what we're focusing on. I mean, this is the sort of city that he turned Rome into. It's gorgeous. I mean, it must have been amazing. The beautiful buildings, of course, it doesn't look like that anymore. But all the temples and race courses, nice. Probably we're talking about 1 million+ people living in Rome. It's a major, major city at this point. And
My
see
brother
that,
thought that Athens and Rome's, my brother thought that Athens and Rome were the same thing.
that is really not true.
Yeah, I'm like, James, that's not true.
Okay, let me show people who are looking on video. I'm trying to, and then I have one more. This is like an aerial view. You can see the Tiber. You can stop the video if you want to look. It's a beautiful city. It's an absolutely beautiful city with the river over here and the bridges across the river and the theaters. Oh my goodness. It's a major city. It's not any slouch. And Augustus,
Oh, and this is one of these?
yes, the Theater of Marcellus on the right is, and I don't know which one is the Theater of Marcellus.
This is Ferguson. Have you ever been to Rome?
No, that is my dream.
You should go to Rome.
I want to. I need to find somebody to go with me. Thank you. I will keep that in mind. I'm going to talk about this with the Eagle of the Ninth. But one particular building, I'm just going to bring these both around. He built an altar. It's called the Arapakis, which means the altar of peace. One thing, somebody mentioned, what did he do? Secure the borders. And I mentioned no new conquests.
Rivers. He used rivers.
Oh, yes. I'm going to get a map out. Yes, you're totally right. And so there were no new wars. Now, there were some battles, and I'm going to talk about a well-known one in a minute. But he wasn't trying to conquer anything. He said, I think we're good. And we're just going to calm down and solidify what we've got. And so this time period in history is called the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. The Romans had built roads everywhere, really, really good roads. In fact, roads, some of which are still in use 2,000 years later. They're so good. And we have to patch up our roads every year.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that. Wait, there's this funny comic book. It's like these guys are on a road trip and it's like really pothole road, and it's like, man, we have to fix these holes every month. What about Rome?
Yeah, this is true. So they could send supplies, soldiers, rapidly on these good roads. Life was, actually, there is a cool, just a second, roads, 18. Yeah, I'm not going to go around with this, but I'll I don't know if you can see this. So dig a trench dig a big trench, and it says, okay, first they put large stones on the bottom, they fill it. Then they put smaller stones, sometimes bound with cement. Then they put gravel on top of that, and then they put flat stone slabs, like paving, on top of that. And they build drainage, they had drainage dishes on the side so the water wouldn't collect on the road.
That's smart.
And they built, oh, I bet it says here.
It took a long time,
Oh,
but it's worth it every single month.
Yeah.
okay. The Via Appia, some of you remember from Emilia Romagna, was the first link in a network that eventually stretched over 50,000 miles. They built 50,000 miles of roads like this. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
So every place, roughly, was at peace. And if you remember, it says in the book of Luke, in the days of Caesar Augustus, a decree went out to all the world, and now I can't quite, that for taxes, for census. A census was decreed. And therefore, everybody had to go back to their hometown to be counted. Therefore, Joseph has to go back to Bethlehem. But Mary is expecting very soon. And that is how they end up in Bethlehem. He's assessing the provinces to get the taxes in order. This is part of Augustus's reforms. And everybody can travel because everything's at peace. And many people have noticed this. It's very interesting that the Prince of Peace was born during the Roman peace, the time we call the Roman peace. Yes, indeed, indeed. And so the world was at peace for a couple hundred years, more or less. I mean, there are small battles, but the Roman Empire is basically at peace. And it really gave a chance for Christianity to spread and grow. If there had been wars everywhere and turmoil, then what is Paul going to do when he's trying to travel around in his missionary journeys? It's going to be terrible. But it wasn't terrible. It was not easy because he was stoned and whatnot. But travel was easy, except when you get in a storm and shipwrecked, which also happened to him. But because of the Roman peace, okay? So back to Augustus. Augustus built this altar of peace. Oh, by the way, there was another temple in Jerusalem. We've been talking about for the temple too long. There was another temple in Rome, the Temple of Janus. Do you remember Janus is the god with a face that looks this way and a face that looks this way?
I thought it was Janus.
Oh, I wear it whichever way you want to say it. And the doors to this temple were closed whenever the empire was at peace and open when there was at war. And they'd only been closed twice before.
What?
Ever, by the time of Augustus. And remember, in 700 years of history. And Augustus closed the doors. We're at peace. That was the third time. So this is the altar. This is not where it's been moved, and it's inside a building now in a museum, right? It was outside, but you can see walls and windows around it because now it's inside. And then this is a close-up of, nobody knows who it is, maybe like she represents the Roman peace. She's got babies there, and everybody's happy around her, and all's awesome. But the temple is covered with pictures relating to Augustus and his family. And the story of Aeneas, right? Because the Julian family is related to them. So yeah, this is a close-up of some of one side of the altar of peace. The Parthenon in Athens also has a picture of all sorts of processions and everything, but it's a picture of the procession for Athena. And it's got gods and everything. This has processions, but it's a procession of Augustus's family instead of Athena. But yeah, we don't know who this lady is. She's peace, she's plenty, she's Venus, she's Ceres, she's grain and food, like abundance. She's everything. We don't know.
What would they use the altar for?
Peace was like to offer sacrifices to the goddess peace. Everything was a goddess or a god. everything. Here we go. Yeah, so many, many notable buildings. To have this piece, I went ahead and brought this too. We need to have people comfortable and secure, and that means making sure everybody has enough food, enough water. And so that brings us to aqueducts. They brought in, there were many, many, by the time of Augustus, they had a lot of aqueducts bringing water in. This is actually in southern France. This one is not leading to Rome, but it's one of the best preserved aqueducts. It's called the Pont du Gard, and it's in very southern France. I got to go there in 1984. And when I went, you could walk on it. You could climb up and you could walk on it. And no, apparently not. Today they've built walkways on the side, and I guess sometimes they let you go, but you can't go onto it. It's like there's a pedestrian thing on the side. But I walked through it, this top. Like I just walked through, and each of the arches, like there's, it's not covered over completely. Every time you go, there's sunlight, and then there's arch, and it's hidden in sunlight, and there were inscriptions in Latin on it. It was really cool.
Did you read the Latin?
No, it was hard to read. Also, they only used capitals and no spaces between words, so it takes a little doing to really read inscriptions, right? It takes some skill. But anyway, it was very cool. But you can still visit it, and then we had a little picnic down, like it was probably we're looking at the other side. There's a little sandbar down there, and we laid out and we had a picnic and watched it. Very cool. But thousands of these to bring the water, because what does water do? It has to go downhill. Water doesn't go uphill. Water goes downhill. So you have to bring it gradually downhill from the mountain springs or wherever you're bringing the water from. But it doesn't have to be tilted very much. You guys know this. If you have a bowl of water, right, you don't have to tilt it very much before it starts spilling over the side, right? You don't have to go like this. You just go a little bit and it moves, just a little bit. And so a very gradual descent. But when it needed to cross a river, they built a bridge for the water. And that's what an aqueduct is. It's a bridge for the water that they're bringing from somewhere else to get it across, because they don't want to dig under the river, obviously. So building projects like that, but we said secure the borders. Oh, I brought this, so I might as well show you. I don't know that this is very helpful or interesting. This is my map of Rome. It's got the river going past, the large blue, the Quirinal, the Viminal, the Esquiline, the names of the hills. You can see where the Forum is. The Colosseum wasn't built under Augustus. There was no Colosseum yet. We'll get to that next week. But in the bridges. But let's take a look at the actual empire.
Whoa, that's a big empire.
It is. We still don't have Britain in the time of Augustus. I told you that the Eagle of the Ninth is about a somewhat later time. Julius Caesar went there, remember, but he got kind of beaten. And he didn't really talk about it very much, but it didn't go well. So he didn't stay. But most of the rest of this is Roman territory. Now, Christian very smartly said they used rivers. We have the Rhine and the Danube River. And look at this place, Germania, Germany. Is it yellow?
No.
It's never going to be yellow. Those people were crazy. They were tough fighters. And the Romans never could conquer them. Germany was heavily forested, and they just hid in the woods and ambushed, and it was just terrible. Well, during the time of Augustus, they were still working on where should the boundary be. And he sent a guy named Varus. Varus was the commander of the army in Germany. And Varus got kind of lured into the woods. Anyway, the entire legion, more than one legion, was slaughtered. in 9 AD, I think. And
Jesus was born.
at what?
Jesus was born.
Yes.
He's 9 years old.
And the message got back to Augustus, and Augustus took this very hard. In fact, they say for the rest of his life, he would dream about it, and sometimes he'd be sitting in a room, and he'd just be thinking about it, and he'd just say, Verus, give me back my legions! He just got so upset that he lost all those men in the forests of Germany. They did go later, other soldiers later, and they found skeletons, and oh yeah, they found where, like, okay, we found them. But that, if there was going to be fighting, that was one of the places where there was fighting, along those rivers, fighting the Germans. They conquered the Gauls, but they never, Germans were tough. So when I say there was peace, I don't mean there weren't skirmishes and problems, right? And of course, we just read about a terrible, the destruction of Jerusalem. That wasn't under Augustus, because that was in 70 AD, but it was certainly under what we refer to as the Roman peace. It wasn't so peaceful in Jerusalem. Okay.
It was Roman peace, not Jerusalem peace.
Yes, this is true. And from the Roman perspective, they were trying to bring peace. Like, why do these Jews keep rebelling? Don't they have good lives? Don't they like being Roman? No, they don't. We saw this. I want to spend some time talking about the eagle of the ninth in a minute, but we saw this with Katya, the little girl who lives next door to Marcus's uncle Aquila, right? And remember her aunt? They're British tribespeople, Katya and her aunt. But her aunt wants to be all Roman, right? She's like wearing the Roman clothes. She's a fine Roman lady. Katya's like, I'm not going to be a fine Roman lady. I'm not Roman. And Marcus, I'll read, I think I marked the section. Like, why do you not want to be Roman? So we'll look at that in a minute. Okay, what was the last? Okay, actually, before I ask that, I want to read this quote. The Circus Maximus, which is where we have horse races. It's a long oval. It says, it was, just a second, it was made more magnificent by the Caesars, who enlarged it so it could hold 150,000 spectators.
Oh.
See, we
That's
kind
what
of,
most football stadiums
yeah,
say.
we kind of think of the ancient world as these little, oh, isn't that quaint? Their little theaters and their little 150,000 people could go into the stadium to see the horse races and the chariot races. Like Kristen said, this is football stadium level.
No, it's even bigger.
Is it bigger? Is
The
it
biggest
bigger?
Football stadium can only fit 100,000.
Okay, bigger than a football stadium. I mean, seriously, this is, we just think we're such hot stuff in the modern world, Like, oh no, this was on a grand scale. Okay, Christian, what did you want to say? Do you remember?
I forgot.
Okay. If you remember, you have my
Wait, I
permission to
remember.
just say it. Okay.
So, in the movie Ben-Hur, the movie where he races, is that the thing? Okay.
Yeah, it was dangerous. It was quite dangerous. Okay, but here's the last question I asked you. Was there a downside to the construction of so many buildings, Luke?
There was, with, like, because they used the money of the public, and so that made rent more expensive.
Okay, the money comes from somewhere, and generally government money comes from taxes. This is true. Was there another? Did anybody else find another downside? Evelyn?
There weren't as many smaller buildings that I could pay for without having a lot of money.
Yeah.
Poor people just left.
Yeah, it left some people homeless. I'll say what Dorothy Mills said here. It says, so great an amount of space was taken up by these public buildings and large houses that the dwellings of the poorer people, who chiefly lived on the Aventine, were crowded together in high and sunless buildings. If we're going to take up X amount of space for a new temple or stadium or whatever, it's beautiful. But that space is space where people can't live, right? we have all these people in Rome. They have all to live somewhere. Did you know that Rome had apartment buildings? This is also something we don't really think about. I think there's a picture of, they were called insulae, Insula Island, because they were these little islands of lots of dwellings. Of course, if I put my glasses in front of my eyes, maybe I could see it. 31, 34, 35. Okay, I didn't find it there. 6682. Well, really? Okay, well, I thought there was a cutaway picture. I'm not convinced there's not. Oh, here we go. Why wasn't, give me, okay. Here, some apartments were luxurious and spacious, others were cramped and squalid. They could have many rooms or only one. Limits were imposed on the height to which insulae could be built. Normally only 4 or 5 stories were allowed because they blocked the sun. You know, if they were both 10 stories high on both sides of the road's going to be all dark and nasty. So yeah, often at the bottom there would be a shop. And then just like today where there are shops, where there are apartments above the shop, except this one was multiple stories of apartments above the shop. So you can fit multiple families in a small, which is what we do today. It's the same thing we do today. But just like today, some apartments are really swank and nice. Some apartments are just not very nice at all and not a place you want to live, depending on how much you pay in rent, right? Same there, same there. Okay. Augustus died in 14 AD.
Rest in peace, dude.
Yes. Presumably. Hopefully he has been for 2,000 years now. And so he 27 BC, you don't have to write this down, to 14 AD. This is the period of Augustus. And what I want you to do for next week is I want you to read in Dorothy Mills. Did we read part of chapter 9? What did we read this week? Oh, 14 and 15. I'm looking at the wrong week, I'm sorry. Okay, chapter 19, all of chapter 19, and this is called Rome under the Caesars. This is kind of a longish chapter, guys. It's 29 pages. But Eagle of the Ninth is pretty easy reading, and I'm going to have you write something, but it's going to be very brief. It's going to be kind of more fun, okay? I want you to read that, but I want to talk a little bit about what you're about to read, to put it in perspective. We're going to have a series of emperors now. We've figured out how to pass the emperor title to someone else. You know, when Julius Caesar died, he's just like, okay, Octavius is my heir. We're not quite sure what that means. Then Augustus thought, okay, I need to set something up. So when I die, everything doesn't collapse and people don't just fight and grab power, like when Alexander the Great died. We don't want that. I need to have a guy who's my second in command, like a vice emperor, and when I die, he can step in. And presumably, I'm going to choose him for my own family because I'd like my own family to stay in charge. But I'm also not just going to say, my oldest son will be emperor. It's not a hereditary monarchy. He's choosing someone who he thinks will be a good ruler. Unfortunately for Augustus, he picked out a guy, his sister's son Marcellus, and we read about this, we talked about it a little bit when we read the Aeneid, when Aeneas goes to the underworld and like, oh, here are all your descendants, Aeneas, and this, throw baskets of lilies blah, 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 for this young man, for this is Marcellus. He died young. It was quite a shock because Augustus was kind of putting all his hope in them. And then he had some nephews, and they all died. Actually, can I tell the juicy soap opera story? I think we have time.
I love juicy soup.
I love it. It's juicy too. So, there's this Roman writer, and his name is Suetonius. He wrote a history. It's called The 12 Caesars. And it starts with Augustus, and it goes through the first 12 emperors, right? But Suetonius isn't one of these, I'm just going to give you the hard, cold historical facts. He dishes the dirt, right? He tells you their ugly little secrets and their personal habits and their rumors and all that stuff. For example, he tells us that one of Augustus's favorite phrases was, as quick as boiled asparagus. Like I can do that as quick as boiled asparagus. Thanks, Suetonius. Now we know. But here's the thing. Augustus, all right, you have to write any of this down. This is just cool, and I'm kind of into this, okay, so humor me. Augustus was married to a woman named Livia. And Livia had a son named Tiberius, all right, by a previous marriage. As a matter of fact, despite all of Augustus's, I'm so moral and I banished my daughter, he actually married her while she was pregnant. Like he took her from her husband and she was pregnant and married. I know. Great. That's the look, Grace. That's the look. But be as it may, so he has this stepson, Tiberius. But Augustus has a daughter named Julia, the aforementioned not very moral lady. But she had children, Gaius and I can't remember. Okay, there's various, I can't remember. Okay, it's not important. So these are grandsons, right? And then Augustus's sister, Octavia, has this son named Marcellus, who's his nephew, but no, Marcellus dies. And I'm just gonna, these are the other guys, I can't remember their names, okay? But it's not important. It was like, oh, I'm gonna take these guys under my wing. Die. He has another granddaughter. It's not Tiberius. Livia has other children, but there's a granddaughter named Livilla, and she has a son, dies. Her husband dies.
Why is there so much?
Okay, this is what Suetonius wants to know. Why is there so much dying every time Augustus says, oh, this guy would make a good next emperor? Because guess who's going to be the next emperor? Tiberius. He's going to be the last one left. And he's grump. He's an old grump. Well, you'll read about him. We'll talk about him. Who didn't even want, he's just grouchy. He's not a nice guy. Anyway, Suetonius hinted maybe somebody was running around getting rid of people by poison. So somebody's son could be the next emperor. Olivia did it. So, based on this hint, there was a guy, I don't know, sometime in the 1900s, okay, like mid-20th century, named Robert Graves. He was a classicist. He was devoted to the Greek and Roman classics and everything, but he wrote 2 novels. The first one's called I, Claudius, and the second one's called Claudius the God. The Emperor Claudius is supposedly writing his memoirs, and he dishes the dirt about how Livia poisoned them all. It's fiction, but it's very plausible fiction. And they turned it into a television show that I saw as a little girl, and it made me love this. This is why I do this. This is because, man, I loved that TV show so much. It was really not fit for children. But anyway, my parents let me watch it anyway. Okay, so, so why did everybody just drop dead? It could have been a coincidence. But Suetonius is like, I don't know. Yes, Luke. No, they just got sick. But you know, there's lots of poisons that you just get sick. In fact, okay, who was that? Oh, what is her name?
Lily's first husband.
No, I'm trying. Oh, I should look up the family tree. Anyway, there was another. Oh, you know what? We'll talk about this later. You'll read about him.
I think I know who poisoned all of them. Livia's first husband before Augustus, because he wants his son to be.
No, he was out of the picture, I think. However, rumor has it. Okay, here's how they told it in the story, which is fiction. Here's how Robert Graves told it, and this was rumored by Suetonius, though, that Augustus was getting ready to pick somebody else and bump Tiberius. He was getting on in years, and then he got sick. And the rumor was he got so sick, and he kind of knew. Okay, this is not history. This is a fictionalized account, but Suetonius hints at it. He said he would only eat the figs off the tree that he picked himself, because he suspected somebody was poisoning him. And in the story, she went out at night and smeared poison on all the figs on the tree
That makes sense.
and bumped him off so her son could be next. We do not know that this happened.
Horrible way.
It's hinted at.
Sure.
So here's what you're going to see. Wasn't that entertaining? It is entertaining. Okay, let's say history is boring ever. So you are going to read about Tiberius. Tiberius has a nephew named Gaius, and he's known to history as Caligula. And so this is not to spies. This isn't father to son. This is emperor to emperor. They're not father to son relationships. Then after Gaius's uncle Claudius gets to be emperor. After Claudius, the infamous Nero is to be emperor. And at this point, the family... Hey guys, can you let me
Nero's
talk?
a butt face.
What?
Nero was a butt face.
Okay, can you stick with me?
Okay.
All right. Because we have like 22 minutes and we haven't talked about the Eagle of the Ninth yet. The family ends here. I mean, the family doesn't end, but they're not emperors anymore. Then it's a new family. Then there was a year, and there were 4 emperors in the 1 year. It wasn't a good year to be the emperor. Yeah. But eventually, they came out of that, and somebody you know, Vespasian, and his son, Titus, and Titus's brother, Domitian, also a rotter. And so this, you're going to kind of get this, like, boom, you're going to go through a whole 100 years in chapter 19, right? You're going to boom, 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 and you're going to work it through. I will dish some dirt on these guys for you next week that Dorothy Mills doesn't dish. But I will. But that's where we're going. So you're going to rapidly go through the first 100 years of having an emperor, right? Does that make sense? Okay. So read chapter 19, Rome under the sea, and these are the Caesars, although only up to Nero were they Caesar's family, but now they call them all Caesar, right? Whether they're related to Caesar or not, they just started calling them Caesar, which, by the way, which is why in Russia, the leader was called the Tsar, and in old Germany, Kaiser. The Kaiser Wilhelm, these were the rulers of Germany pre-World War I. It comes from the word Caesar. Czar. Okay, let's talk about the Eagle of the Ninth. I brought in, this is where I finally this, a picture of a chariot race. But also, this is the gladiators. Remember, they talked about the fact that when he saw Esca fighting, there was the guy with the net, and they didn't think it was fair to have the guy with the sword and the guy with the net. Do you remember this? when Eska was out. And this is talking about the various fighters. They each have a name. You know, you have the guy with the spear, the guy with the net, the guy with the shield, and so they would pit one kind against the other, like armed with different things, to see who would come out on top. Retiarius, rete means net, rete, and I think, yeah, Retiarius is the net guy. Murmillo is the guy with the big shield and the short sword. Samnite, I'm not sure what's different about him. His armor is different. And the Thracian guy has no armor whatsoever. That seems like you don't want to be him. The Thracian guy with no armor whatsoever.
This guy has no armor.
Oh yeah, yeah, but he's got the net, so he can throw the net at you and then trip you. Yeah,
And then kill you.
yeah, because it's hard to get out of an. I mean, I don't know this from personal experience.
Yeah, a net.
I haven't been caught in a lot of nets, but I can imagine that if I were, it would be hard to find the way out.
Yeah, I've been caught in a couple nets. The cops were coming after me. And he's got a little net gun, so he was like, oh, and I got out of the net.
Okay, Christian.
I'm sorry.
I want to read this. Marcus is talking to Eska. And he says, oh, okay, before I read this, we already mentioned Katya, the neighbor girl who doesn't like the Romans, who doesn't want to be Roman. Did we meet someone else in this book who really, really doesn't like the Romans? Eska doesn't like the Romans, and rightly so. They captured him. How about early in the book?
Was it that guy that he raced his team?
Cradoc and his wife. So Marcus has been sent to the province of Britain to take over a fort. It's kind of entry-level military career. Why does he want to be a soldier, and B, why does he want to go to Britain? Marcus. Yeah, Evelyn.
He wants to be a soldier because his dad was a son, and then he wanted to find his dad.
Yeah, because his dad marched north to the place where the tribes were wild and not Romanized, and they never came back. Now, I don't know if you guys read in the very front of the book, but I'm going to read this little blurb because this is actually based on a true story. It says, this is just in the front of my book, before chapter 1. Sometime about AD 117, the 9th Legion, which was stationed at Eburacum, where York now stands, marched north to deal with a rising among the Caledonian tribes and was never heard of again. During the excavations at Silchester, nearly 1,800 years later, there was dug up under the green fields which now cover the pavements of Caleva Atribatum, a wingless Roman eagle, a cast of which can be seen this day in Reading Museum. Reading is the name of a British town. Different people have had different ideas as to how it came to be there, but no one knows. Just as no one knows what happened to the 9th Legion after it marched into the northern mists. It is from these two mysteries brought together that I have made the story of the Eagle of the Ninth. So, what's true in this? One true thing. The 9th Legion marched north and disappeared. Nobody knew what happened to them. What's the other true thing? A Roman eagle, and do we understand what I mean by this, right? They described it. The Romans, I bet we have a picture of that in this book. The Romans had a standard, sort of like a troop today would have their flag, right? And they had an eagle, and it was the symbol of their yes. Yes.
Why did they have wings? Didn't we just say eagles have wings?
Yeah, it said the one they found was missing its wings. Mm-hmm. I don't, this is not very helpful because it doesn't have an eagle. Oh, here we go. It says each century had a signifer or standard bearer who carried the century's emblem. Each legion owned an eagle made of silver. It was called an aquila. And isn't it funny that Uncle Aquila means eagle. It was carried in battle by a soldier called an aquilifer, which literally means the one who carries the eagle. The eagle was the symbol of the legion's power. If the enemy captured it, the legion was disbanded. If you lose the eagle, that legion doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, wow.
It was big deal to lose your eagle, right? So apparently, in real life, first of all, that legion marched north and disappeared. Second of all, archaeological excavations up farther north than you would expect there to be one. They just found this eagle, and the wings were missing. We don't know where the wings went. But it's obviously a Roman standard eagle, and how did it get there? Nobody knows. What did you say, Julia?
Wait, did it show that it had been broken off?
I have no idea. All I know is what I read there. But those she's saying those are historical facts. Archaeologists found this eagle and this legion marched off, and she said, I put those two things together and I have made up a story about it. So as you read this, this is her explanation, her fictional explanation, but we don't know. We don't know. But yes, so they show up, Marcus shows up, and this Cradock guy, does he seem like a good friend? I mean, they go out, not maybe his BFF, but they go out hunting. Cradock lets Marcus drive his chariot. He has an awesome chariot with the really, really good horses. When he finds out Marcus is a decent charioteer, he lets him take a run with it. But his wife is never very friendly. Remember, he would go and his wife's just kind of lurking and she pulls back the curtains, and sneers at him and puts the curtain back. And he wonders, what's up with these people? Well, then he finds out, doesn't he? Because Cradock's tribe attacks the fort. And of course, what happens to Marcus? Yeah, he's horribly wounded. He's debilitatingly wounded. So much so that he's probably always going to be a little lame and he'll never be a soldier again. He's just, his military career is over now after his very first command for 2 weeks or something, 3 weeks. That's a bummer. So of course, Marcus doesn't know what to do with himself. It's very much like modern days, the football player, like he's the star, but then he has a terrible injury and they're like, well, you'll never play football again.
Alex Smith? Luke?
I don't know. But this happens sometimes. And you can just give in to despair, or you can say, well, I guess I need to find another purpose for my life. And so far, where we've read, we don't know which Marcus is going to do we? He's just living with his uncle. I don't know what to do with myself. I was going to be a soldier. So Cradock and his tribesmen don't want to be Roman. Katya, the little girl next door, doesn't want to be Roman. Eska doesn't want to be Roman. But Katya's aunt, she digs being Roman. It's awesome. Being Roman's awesome. So here's the moment where Marcus doesn't understand and he asks. Here's what it says. Eska, why do all the frontier tribes resent our coming so bitterly? He asked on sudden impulse. The tribes of the south have taken to our ways easily enough. We have ways of our own, said Eska. He squatted on one heel beside the bench. The tribes of the south had lost their birthright before ever the eagles came in war. They sold it for the things Rome could give. They were fat with Roman merchandise, and their souls had grown lazy within them. What sort of things do you think he might be talking about? Those people in the south, they were fat with Roman merchandise. They loved the things that Rome could give them. What sort of things could Rome give you?
Safety.
Safety. Okay, these tribes are fighting each other all the time. But Rome comes in and says, we're not going to do that anymore. Play nice, get along, safety. That Pax Romana. What do you think, Ann?
Jewelry and good food.
Yeah. Good, consistent food that's shipped in where we don't have to go hunting and maybe we're going to go hungry if it's a bad year, when there aren't enough animals to catch or fruit together. And I like the pretty things. I like it. Like Katya's aunt. Yeah, what do you think?
What about the roads?
Roads. The roads are nice. They're not mud pits anymore when I want to travel somewhere. And you know what? These soldiers come and say, I'm a merchant. I sell things. Romans are customers. I'm doing good business. And then the Romans move in and they built that bathhouse, an awesome bathhouse. And you go, it's like got saunas and you can get a massage and like life is good. And this is what Marcus thinks. Why would you fight against Rome? Life is good under Rome. And Esca says, oh yeah, those southern people, they thought that too. And he said they sold their birthright, is how he said. They ditched their old ways so they could have the stuff Rome gives. But he keeps talking. He says this. Or Marcus answers, but these things that Rome had to give, are they not good things? Marcus demanded. Justice and order and good roads? Worth having, surely. These be all good things, Esca agreed. But the price is too high. The price? Freedom? Yes. And other things than freedom. What other things? Tell me, Esca. I want to know. I want to understand. Esca thought for a while, staring straight before him. Look at the pattern embossed here on your dagger sheath, he said at last. See, here's a tight curve, and here's another facing the other way to balance it. And here between them is a little round, stiff flower. And then it is all repeated here, and here, and here again. It is beautiful, yes. But to me, it is as meaningless as an unlit lamp. Marcus nodded as the other glanced up at him. Go on. Esca took up the shield, which had been laid aside at Katya's coming. Now, look at this shield, boss. See the bulging curves that flow from each other as water flows from water and wind from wind, as the stars turn in the heavens and blown sand drifts into dunes? These are the curves of life. And the man who traced them had in him knowledge of things that your people have lost the key to, if they ever had it. He looked up at Marcus again very earnestly. You cannot expect the man who made this shield to live easily under the rule of the man who worked the sheath of this dagger. What in the world is he talking about? Can you paraphrase that? What does he mean? Like, look at this artistic. It's regular, it's symmetrical, it repeats. That's the Roman way. Look at this British shield. It's wild with the curves and it's like nature. What's the difference?
That the sheath is more like uniform and everything's the same, while the shield is like different than.
Like nature is different, right? Like no tree is exactly like another tree. And no constellation is exactly like another constellation. It's all different. So maybe Esca is saying, you know the people who make patterns that are repeat and symmetrical, and they're very orderly people. Luke said all the same. You know, every Roman camp is the same. Every new Roman town was laid out the same way. It's nice. Okay, here's a modern example. And this is not a comment on where any of you live. We all live in different sorts of houses. But some houses are in neighborhoods where every house is almost the same. You've been in those neighborhoods, right? And I'm not criticizing your house if you live in it. Like, I'm just thankful that I have a house. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just making an observation. You go through them, and they're all the same, but they're lovely. And then you go to, it's like a 150-year-old farmhouse somewhere, right? And it's all rambling, and things are kind of broken down a little bit, right? And it's not all neat, and there's nicks on the baseboard and everything. It's not super pretty and fancy, but it's got character, we would say. You know, it's kind of weird and funky, and they're different ways of living. Some people really, really, really would like to live in the really nice new house in the subdivision where they're all alike, because the house is really nice. But some people say, no, give me the farmhouse in the country, even though, like, you know, the stairs creak, and this corner, the ceiling's bulging down a little bit. We're going to have to fix that, and because it's got character. And Esca says, I want the thing with character that's not all the same. But the Romans come in and they do everything the same. And it's a good thing. Like the things they do the same are good things and beautiful things. Does that make sense to you guys? How would you describe Marcus's relationship with Esca? How does Marcus feel about Esca? He treats him like a friend, not a slave, doesn't he? He said, you basically, I bought you because I could see the fear in you, but I could also see the bravery in you in the ring, in the games. And Marcus isn't going to get to live with soldiers anymore. But Eska's a kind of soldier, right? Eska's a fighter. Eska's brave. How does Eska feel about Marcus? Kind of depends, doesn't it? He knows Marcus is really good to him, but remember he went on that hunt, the wolf hunt, and he brought home cub. But the guy that he was hunting with said, "Ew, well, you're a slave. Your master's going to be really mad at you for putting his property in danger," and sort of reminded him he was a slave. And Eska came back all kind of pouty. "I'm a slave." Marcus like, "Eska, what happened?" "I'm sorry I put your property in danger." He's like, "Oh, shut up, Eska. I let you go because I knew it would bring you joy, because basically you're my friend. I want a friend. I don't want a slave. I just bought you so I could have a friend." So, there, yeah, well, sort of, but you know what I mean. Okay, I would like you to do two things for me, more things for me this week, and then I will let you go. First of all, I want you to read the Eagle of the Ninth chapters. Are you with me? You need to stop, because I'm also going to tell you to write something, so you need to listen. Chapters 9 through 15, which is another fourth of the book. So if chapters 1 through 8 was easy enough to read, chapters 9 through 15 is going to be easy. Now, here's what I would like you to write. This is like a creative writing assignment. It's just have fun with it. All right? But write this down, because this is what I'm looking for. Pick a scene or moment in Eagle of the Ninth. I'm just going to call it EON, okay? I don't care. It could be Marcus is driving the chariot across the grass, or it's during the battle, or it's Marcus is first waking up out of his daze after he's been injured, or Marcus's first day at Uncle Aquila's, or he's playing chess with Uncle Aquila. Okay, you get the idea. All right. I put down here the battle, Eska's wolf hunt. That would be a good scene or moment. And I want you to write a paragraph, one paragraph. It can be longer if you want, if you're really into it. But I'm looking for one paragraph describing the moment. In other words, don't give me the whole story. Say something like, as he drove the chariot, as he drove Craddock's chariot, the wind blew his hair back, and he felt freedom, and he could hear the wheels creaking underneath him, and he felt the jolts as they hit up. Right? You're describing a moment, and I want you to use as many senses as possible. In other words, what does he see? What does he hear? What does he smell? Maybe taste?
He tastes the wind.
Okay, maybe.
Dust.
Yes, maybe. And I want you to include, this is your challenge, simile, I know, alliteration, an ing opener, anywhere in the paragraph, antithesis, and parallelism. All of them in one paragraph. Now, if you write more than one paragraph, you have more chances. And it can be a long paragraph. But, sometimes, like you can alliterate in your parallelism, or you know what I mean? You can bunch them together. This is what I'm looking for. If you don't do this, I'm going to hand the paper back and say, you need to work on it some more. I'm telling you, flat out. As long as it's this, then you're good. You're golden. Please mark in the margin. Don't underline them. Don't bold. Just write it in the margin. I've been asking you to do since August. If you give me a paper and it's not marked in the margin, I'm just going to hand it back and say, well, you didn't mark them, did you? You're not done. Right? Now, there's no surprises. I'm not going to spring anything. This is it. There's no surprises. This is what I'm looking for. Okay? Are there any questions?
Nope.
Are we good? I will see you next week. Hey, go up quietly because I think the Bible study's. So just go.
Are you going to tell us something about the Latin?
Oh.